We're good? All right. Okay, so welcome to the very very first episode of the conversion factor, and this segment is all about talking about sales and marketing and how to improve and boost the levels of your sales on your website. So today we're actually going to talk a little bit about the importance of copywriting, why it's important to your website, why it's probably the number one undervalued skill out there in online marketing, and we're going to be covering off some of the what we call the factors of influence. So let's kick it off. So copywriting. Why is it the number one skill?
It's really because it infiltrates absolutely everything you do. So pretty much, if you're trying to communicate something to your list, let's say you want to do something, you want your customers to buy something, you want them to read an email, you want them to leave a comment on your website. Basically, anything that you want your customers to do, you need to effectively communicate to them, and that's basically what we're talking about. We're talking about the written form of that communication. So copywriting really, it's in everything you do. It's important when somebody comes to your website and you want them to read it, you want them to watch a video, you want them to do something. Marketing and copywriting is so deeply ingrained in absolutely all of that. So it's really important that if you're trying to achieve something in your business, you're trying to get your customers to do something, you're trying to help them, that you really need to understand how marketing works and how copywriting works. And there are basically so there's a lot around this. It's a very, very deep subject, and it goes. It takes quite a while to become familiar with and to be able to do it well. But it can actually be broken down into 6 main categories, which are commonly referred to as the 6 factors of influence. So do you want to give us a brief?
We'll cover that off in a bit of a second. In terms of copywriting, there's just a misconception, I think, that copywriting is only useful for, say, sales pages, for example. Whereas I think, as you kind of mentioned, copywriting is important for every single step in running a business, in every single step in online marketing, and particularly for traffic. So a lot of traffic generation boils down to writing ads in AdWords or Facebook or ads on other sites. There's copywriting involved in opt-in pages. There's even an SEO. SEO is kind of considered to be I don't need to know copywriting. I'm a professional SEO person, but SEO is more and more becoming content marketing.
I think there's also another important point to make around copywriting is that most people's perception of copywriting is that, for example, a journalist would write copy for a newspaper, but it's got a very, very different purpose to what we're trying to achieve in online marketing. So, copywriters for magazines, for example, a lot of the articles and stuff, you would consider that to be copy, but it's not. The sort of copy that we're talking about is for the purpose of encouraging action, so people to actually do things. It's not just copy and words to sort of entertain people so much. It's actually trying to get them to take action and move forward to achieve an outcome. So, it's to buy a product and then get the result from that product. It's to read an email and then go and learn something from a blog post. It's about really copywriting from the perspective of trying to encourage people and communicate to people to actually take action.
That's right. And particularly even say for SEO. Now, SEO it's traditionally been about sort of beating Google's algorithm but now it's really transforming into SEO is more about marketing. It's about content marketing. It's about putting out really great content. And people think, well, what does content have to do with sales and marketing? Well, if your content is not compelling, then people won't read it. And if there isn't a call to action in your content, then people won't do anything.
Exactly right.
So even here with our training videos, we kind of look at our training and the content that we create almost like as a mini sales letter. We need to work out how do we get people's interest and attention, how do we connect them with the problem that this particular content is trying to solve, and and then what do we want people to do after they've watched that content?
Yeah, I mean, like SEO is moving much more towards marketing, and beneath marketing, the sort of the very broad spectrum of marketing is copywriting. Copywriting is really the work that you do in the trenches to do effective marketing. And as SEO is moving towards that, copywriting really is the master skill, which you really need to have. And you don't have to be a master at it to be effective at it, but it is something that is really, really important to actually being successful online. You really, really can't. It's very, very difficult to be successful without at least understanding the skill, whether or not you're a master at it. And the exciting thing is that there's actually a lot of science which is proving a lot of this stuff now. If you look at a lot of the master copywriters who have kind of all the big companies hire to do their multi-million-dollar ads and all that sort of stuff. The big guys like the late Gary Halbert, John Carlton, Dan Kennedy, these sort of master guys have kind of known this stuff for a long time. They've known what's worked, and they have kind of categorized it into these categories. But what actually in the last sort of 10 to 20 years, there's been a lot of scientific studies which have proven what actually goes on in the brain when these things, these master copywriters actually implement these strategies.
Yeah, and so just taking a look at the slide over here, like marketing is, it's considered to be this, this kind of fluffy thing that you need to be either, a sleazy salesman, or you need to be an outgoing personality, and the kind of guy that you see, selling, used cars, and that puts a lot of people off from doing marketing. And as you said, like there's a lot of studies coming out now, a lot of a study of the brain in terms in neuroscience that actually showing what is how we as human beings are wired, how we respond, and this stuff actually backs up 100% the stuff that trusted copywriters have known for for centuries, I guess. And what's really exciting about that is that a person who is not an outgoing personality, who might be more left brain rather than right brain, a bit maybe less creative, can actually do this sales and marketing stuff and be really good at it.
And I mean that's one of the things that we're most excited about, sort of as we're moving into the internet's really just starting to get its legs and it's really starting to grow now. The possibilities of this stuff is really endless, and there's so many different ways that we're learning that we can actually implement this stuff. The book, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, is a really, really great book for actually just getting an understanding of how these particular factors influence us, how we respond to certain factors of influence. So we'll talk about those in just a moment.
So there's this guy Robert Cialdini. So he's a scientist. He conducted a lot of different studies around what makes people do things. How do we influence people? How do we bring people into compliance with our kind of message? And I guess that's actually probably, before we even go into that, we should kind of really say that there's a perception that sales and marketing is about manipulation. It's about forcing your will upon somebody else, and that's absolutely not true. I think a better mindset to have around marketing is that it's actually effective communication, and in the way that if you're going to communicate to a computer, you would use a programming language. That is how you connect, to a computer. When you're talking to a human being, you need to say, well, what is a human being? How is a human being wired? And what is the most effective way to communicate with them?
And a human being is made up of both logical decision-making capabilities as well as emotional decision-making capabilities. And it's really important when you're trying to communicate with someone that you don't just go for the logical side of things, because you're just not going to get through. Like, there are different personalities of people who have, maybe they lean more towards logical sort of decision-making, but everybody in the world has a very, very strong emotional side to them. And if you completely neglect that side of their personality, you'll completely miss the mark.
Yeah, and I think it's and even left brain personality people, Like, we've got a lot of software engineers here in the office. You know, they go, oh, this marketing stuff doesn't work and stuff. And, you know, they tend to be predisposed and biased towards making decisions, you know, logically and objectively. But then, you know, if you see, like, in the background, you'll see these little statues and things of different sort of comic characters. And you know, these things cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for some of them. And so yes, so in one area of your life, you can be very logical about making purchases. In another, you know, there's obviously an emotional connection that allows people to, you know, spend a lot of money on things that they're passionate about.
Yeah, and the important part, or the important point to make is that not everybody is going to be your market. So when you copyright, when you try and communicate, you're trying to communicate with the people who have the problem or the desires that your product or service will solve. So you're not going to get everybody, but in every single market, when you're trying to connect with the people who have that desire or that interest or that pain, that communication is absolutely core, and it's an emotional and a logical equation, basically. And it's really, really important that when you're trying to make that connection, the emotional side of things is so critical, because everybody, even if they are very, very logical, have that emotional side. You just can't escape it. We are human emotional beings.
Yes, as much as I try not to be. So this Cialdini, he went out and he worked out, you know, what are these factors that you can use to influence people, and these are really, really key. I think, you know, every single piece of copy that we write, and I know a lot of master copywriters and marketers out there, they use the same list every single time that you're trying to influence somebody, whether it's through an email or a web page or an opt-in form, going through these 6 factors of influence that Robert Cialdini discovered and applying it, saying, how can I introduce each of these factors to the copy that I'm writing, is just a really awesome way to bump up your copy. If something's missing, it's usually you're not applying it. It's missing some of these factors, or you could dial up these factors even more. And so I really think that it's a really excellent book. But we'll just cover those 6 factors really briefly. The plan is sort of over the next few shows that we will go into each of these factors in a bit more detail and make it much more practical.
That's exactly right, because the book Psychology of Persuasion by Cialdini it's a very, very sort of how would you say it? It's a very conceptual book. There's a lot of studies that he did to sort of uncover these particular factors and kind of give some shape and understanding around them. But he wrote the book more from the perception of how to be aware of them as opposed to how to take advantage of them. So it's a very, very important book to read from that perspective, just to sort of understand what they are. But in subsequent episodes, we're going to talk a lot more about the nuts and bolts of how to take advantage of each one, where to use them, how to use them, and how that relates specifically in internet marketing.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go through them. So, factor number 1 is authority.
Yep.
What's authority all about?
Authority is basically that when all of these factors are more framed in the from the perspective of compliance, so actually getting somebody to do something, and how these factors all contribute to making that a much more likely event, to kind of stack the cards in your favor, more importantly. And authority talks about basically if you are somebody in a position of authority, like a doctor or a surgeon or somebody like that, and you ask your patient to do something, you are much more, as a patient, you are much more likely to comply and to do what the doctor says, because they have the authority. They've got the education, they've got the doctorate, they've got all of these things which says this person is somebody I should listen to because they know what they're talking about, and they know more than I do, so I should comply and I should do what they say. I should take this pill, I should do this exercise, I should do whatever it is they say, because they are someone in a position of authority.
Yeah, and I think I've got a really good example of this, actually. I've got a really good friend, and she is one of the top tennis coaches in the world. She's coached a lot of the the top Grand Slam winners, and she offers coaching services. She's got information products and books. She just recently wrote a book.
And she probably is the best person in the world and the most qualified and the greatest expert in this particular field.
Yeah. and she's one of the most humble people in the world. So for her to kind of talk about her success, that she's had, and talk about testimonials, and really kind of list out all her achievements, that's for a lot of people that comes across as kind of, I can't say that, and I want to be,
feel like they're boasting or bragging or something like that.
Yeah, and I kind of tried to explain to her how important it is, and you have to look at it from the perspective of helping other people. So who is the ideal person that my product or service is going to be able to help? Now, if I don't effectively communicate to them when they visit my site, they may leave and not get the benefit of my product and service. And in her case, literally, she can take a very, very talented, teenager or something and turn them into a world superstar, literally. And so, and that just means, that the impact financially, impact to their family and their entire future is just enormous. It's incredible. But if she doesn't communicate effectively, that person could visit the website and not understand how much she's able to help them, and walk away, and literally, that's the difference between changing a life and not changing a life.
Yeah, I mean, a good way to sort of characterize that is that if let's say somebody, like a teenager who wants to play tennis, for example, and they're very, very good, but they just don't know how to take their game to the next level. If they were just browsing the internet looking for a way to help this, and they came across this friend of yours, and they just saw a blank page with a photo of her, they would know absolutely nothing. Now, she has the skills and the expertise and the power to be able to change that person's life and fulfill their dreams. But if she doesn't actually communicate the value that she has, the authority that she has, the skills, the experience, all of these things, that person will just waltz by like she's another person, like she has nothing to add. But she's got all this stuff that she's just not actually getting across.
Or even worse, they might go to another website with someone who is nowhere near as good, who happens to be really good at marketing, and sign up with the wrong coach.
Exactly.
And just not get the results and waste a lot of time and and money just going down the toilet. So
yeah. So that's a brief summary of what authority is and why it's important. Okay. What's the next one?
The next one is reciprocity.
Yep.
Yeah. So reciprocity is all about the fact that when you do something for somebody or give a gift or something to somebody, that there's a feeling of indebtedness. There is, it's like I do you a favor, that they feel indebted to repay that.
And the interesting the interesting point with this one is that the power of reciprocity can endure a very, very long time.
Yes.
For example, if someone who you're friends with, all of a sudden, let's say you have this agreement where you don't buy each other birthday presents, and then all of a sudden they turn up one year with a birthday present for you. What's going to happen is you're going to feel that sense of indebtedness right through to their birthday, which could be a year away, could be another year away. You're still going to feel that sense of, oh, they bought me a birthday present last year, so I really need to buy them one this year.
Yes.
It can last for, and I mean, that's just an example, but it can last a lot longer than that. So reciprocity is a very, very powerful one. Another example is if you're out to dinner and somebody buys you a drink, you feel this instant sense of need and indebtedness to repay that drink.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, the way we're wired, we're social animals, and evolution, our background is, we're stronger together in a community, together in groups. So the fact that we look out for each other and we repay each other just means just a better functioning society.
Exactly. Yep. What's the next one?
Next one?
Social proof.
Oh, yes.
Social proof is a good one. Social proof is one of probably out of the six, there are two which are really, really, really powerful and very, very, very tangible in terms of you can implement them and get an almost an instant boost and a result from them. And social proof basically is that if you have a number of people basically assert an opinion or an action. So an example could be a bunch of kids on some play equipment. If there is a whole bunch of them playing on this particular piece of equipment, all of a sudden, because they've asserted this affection for the play equipment, then other people standing around are more likely to want to play on that equipment because these other people have already said, oh, I like this thing and I want to play on it and it's cool and it's fun. So then all of a sudden other people want to.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this is, like a tangible way that this is, we see this all the time is when, like on Facebook, when somebody likes something or they write a comment on something, you see 4,000 comments. There's a lot of people who have asserted a certain, opinion towards whatever it is that they're commenting on, and this encourages others to do the same.
Yeah, and it's a very, very important filter for people. Like I said, if you've got 10 different products and one product has a lot of testimonials,
exactly,
has a lot of likes, has a lot of comments,
yep,
then it's a filter. It's easy to just go, well, I picked that one because it's the safest one, yep, or hey, it just looks really, really great. Like all these other people have, they've said it really great. So say it's got really good reviews on Amazon.com or something.
And as a customer coming to your communication, or basically all us humans, we're always trying to conserve energy so much. And what we're trying to do as we go through life is we're basically subconsciously using these 6 factors as a filter for us to figure out whether or not something is worth our time, because our time and our energy are our most precious resource. So if we're analyzing whether we should buy something, whether we should listen to somebody, whether we should do something, we're using this as a subconscious filter to assert whether or not we should do it. So when you're writing emails, when you're doing your sales pages, these are the sort of things that you're trying to inject everywhere so that someone coming along goes, this is worth my time.
Yeah, because these are literally the way that we make decisions. We look for these things even if we're not, aware or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, which really makes me angry because, so many sales pages or, like product pages, say on Amazon, they've only got 2 or 3 kind of bullet points. They don't have all this kind of information. I want all this information. It's going to help me make a better decision. So, yeah.
Exactly. Like recently I was at an auto store and I was looking at a certain additive to put in my engine, and I had like 15 to choose from, and I ended up just going with the one that had the information on the bottle. Now they probably all did it. They probably all all actually satisfied the need that I had, but I actually went with the one that just said on the bottle it does this, and it's just that information is critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the next influence factor?
Okay, we have liking.
Liking.
Yeah. So liking is really just the fact that we are much more likely to do something for someone if we like them, right? If someone's being a jerk to us or something, then obviously we're not going to do something for them. But but if we like the person, if we have a relationship with them, if we can see that we've got rapport with somebody, then we're more likely to be influenced by them. They ran some, Robert Cialdini ran some experiments where they, got beautiful blonde women to go up to men and, ask them to do something like buy raffle tickets or something, and a lot more of them complied because there was some instant rapport and liking in that in that situation. So it is very, very important in marketing, and sometimes people make the mistake of trying to come across as having too much authority, and I'm the super expert and I'm the big guru, and that's that's kind of good to a degree, but if you lose rapport and and you distance yourself from someone, then they're very, very unlikely they go, well, that's all good for you. You're really smart and you've got all these PhDs and all this sort of stuff. I'm just an average guy. I'm not going to be able to do that. So, or you might even come across as really arrogant in doing that. So you need to create connection with your reader as well.
An example I like to think about is this: is if your mother asks you to do something, you're much more likely to comply than if somebody off the street, walking down the sidewalk, asks you to do exactly the same thing. Because you don't know who they are, you don't know what their motives are. Whereas somebody who you like and and you trust and you have a lot of rapport with, i.e. your mother, you're much more likely to go, yeah, of course I'll do that. No worries.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, what's the next one?
Number 5 is commitment and consistency.
All right. Commitment and consistency is basically that when you make an assertion about something, like I like pancakes, for example, then you are, as soon as you have made that assertion, you're much more likely to be consistent with it later on. Especially if you say that in front of a lot of people. If you were around all your friends, you said, I love pancakes. And then the next time somebody's, 2 years down the track, they say, oh, do you like pancakes? You'd be much more likely to say yes, because you already have asserted that you do. If you all of a sudden said, no, I don't like them anymore, they'd be like, well, I don't understand. You said you did, now you don't. What's changed? And we almost feel like we're being fake if we change our minds.
Absolutely.
It's very, very powerful. Cialdini did a lot of experiments around this. What was it? Was the Hare Krishna one?
No, community consistency. No, that was the Korean.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that's the
Korean War. Do you want to tell that story?
Yeah, so it's really, really fascinating. So during the Korean War, there was a bunch of American POWs that were in a concentration camp, and the people that ran the Koreans who ran the concentration camp were trying to influence these soldiers to embrace the ideals of communism. Mm-hmm. So one way was to beat them into doing that, but they knew that didn't work, or didn't work if they tried doing it. But what they did was actually they used this commitment consistency principle. So what they did was they would take each soldier individually, they would take them into a room, and they would get them to write in their own handwriting something like, not that communism is the best in the world, but that maybe communism, it's not so bad. There's some aspects of it which are really good and positive, something like that, and get them to sign their name, right? And then the people running the concentration camp would take these letters that were signed and post them up where everyone could kind of see. And one interesting thing happened, that the people that wrote those letters would actually begin to take on those beliefs and start standing up and defending what they had written, because there's just this incredible pressure for us to be consistent with what we say, what we've written. And gradually, it's kind of the chink in the armor. Then they get them to commit to bigger and bigger sort of, commitments towards, taking on communism. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very powerful. It doesn't, we'll talk, in future episodes about how to specifically use this in online marketing. It's still a very, very useful and very powerful technique.
It only has a few applications, though. It's one that's very powerful in the right circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really have necessarily universal application, but when you can use it, definitely it's very, very powerful and very subtle.
Yes. Yep.
And the final one is probably our favourite.
It's definitely our favourite.
Which is called scarcity.
Yep. Scarcity is, as I mentioned, with social proof. Scarcity is the other one, which is really, really the most powerful, the most universal, and it's the most effective at actually getting the response. It's the thing that really, really tips people over the edge at that point of making a decision, because it basically brings that decision forward. Probably an example where we've all experienced scarcity is we've all bought something on eBay before, and eBay auctions are perfectly engineered with deep scarcity, because usually there's only one item up for sale, and there's a deadline before the auction expires. House auctions are another example of this, where there's only one item and lots of people want it, so it's a scarce resource. And basically what scarcity is it's when there is a limitation, when there is more people who want something than there are things available, it becomes more valuable. And when something's more valuable, people are much more likely to try and take advantage of it. So basically scarcity, the two types of scarcity are limited quantity of stuff, and there are basically a limited amount of time until something becomes no longer available. So, I mean, if you think about it in the example of water, if there's a water shortage, then all of a sudden that water becomes so much more valuable, and people are going to start trying to get their own, supply of this water so that they can survive. So if there's an abundance of water, then it's not really that valuable. Mm. I mean, it's why gold and diamonds and precious metals are so valuable, because they are in short supply.
Yeah, so scarcity is just one of those. It's just, yeah, it's very universal. It's very powerful, and it makes sense why, because as I said, like
it really taps into the survival instinct.
Yeah, like if you're in a cave and there's only a little bit of food there, then you want to be really motivated to go and get that food before it disappears. It's literally life or death. Today, it's more. I mean,
we don't really have. I mean, like in the world that we live in, we don't really have that in terms of food and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, but it's more like we want something.
Exactly right.
It's a desire. So for my case, like the new iPhone gets released, and I'm queuing for like 6 hours in a line, and there's hundreds of people there. So it's good. I know there's only a certain number of quantity in Australia, and in this particular store, I've got to make sure I get there before 4 o'clock in the morning to queue up so I can get my device. And yes, I'm that pathetic.
But we also see it with sales. Like, a department store, has a Christmas sale or a Boxing Day sale or a Black Friday sale or whatever it is. There's this big sale, and if I don't go and get what I want now, then I'm going to have to pay double the price for it because it's this big discount. So you're much more motivated to take action because this discount is expiring.
That's right. So there are consequences of not taking action. That's really the key thing behind scarcity. But we'll cover much more of that in the future episodes. And yes, we love scarcity so much. We actually created a product called Scarcity Samurai, which helps you to visualize scarcity, on your website.
Yep. So we'll talk about a lot more about that in future episodes.
Okay, so that kind of probably winds up this first conversion factor episode. We've got a couple of action points. We really, believe, there's one thing to listen to information, take information. It's another thing to go and start applying this in your business. So we've got a couple of action points today. The first is that you should pick up a copy of the psychology of. It's called Influence, Psychology of Persuasion.
By Robert Cialdini.
That's the important thing. So just take it, read it. It's very, very easy to read. It's all told in stories. It's fascinating. Goes into a lot more detail than what we've done here. Still probably one of my #1 marketing books of all time, and I've read a lot of marketing books. The second action point is, now that you've kind of seen these 6 factors of influence, just open your eyes. Take a look at advertising or ads on television, or the next time you're in a sales situation, and see how many of these factors can you pick that are being used, and even think about which ones are missing. What others? How could you potentially add some of these other factors of influence to improve that piece of marketing, improve that sales
I mean,
process.
like probably the 2 easiest ways to actually do that is if you're on Facebook and you see a lot of your friends liking things, to just try and sort of take a step outside of yourself and think about how that affects you. You see, like maybe a picture comes up in your feed and all of your friends have liked it, or lots of people have liked it. Maybe just have a think about, am I more likely, do I feel like I want to click on this now and see what it's all about, what all the fuss is about? And another one is scarcity, is actually looking, looking at being more aware of product sales and department store sales and auctions and
anytime you buy something, ask yourself, why did you buy?
Yeah, exactly.
What were the factors that made you buy? I love, every time I buy something, it's like, why did I buy?
And probably the best way to actually kind of realize that is after you've bought something and you maybe not sure why you bought it afterwards, or maybe you have a sense of regret or something like that, and start to think about, okay, well, what was actually at play when I bought this? Was there a lot of emotion and excitement? Was like why did I actually buy this? Yeah. That would be a very important one.
Okay. And the final call to action is, we're actually going to we would like to start a new segment on the show, which is doing marketing reviews. So if you would be very interested in getting our opinion about how to improve your sales process, your marketing process, even your SEO on your website, submit your website for a marketing review. So how do they do that, Ben?
Well, what they need to do is they need to send us, basically send us an email, and we want that email to support@noblesamurai.com.
Yep.
Which is just our catch-all email address. And what we want is, we want your website address, so we can actually look at your website. We want your name and where you're from, just so we can put a bit of a name to a face to a name and know who we're talking about and who we're helping. A photo would be really nice, just so we can really get that sort of sense of connection with you. We also want to know what the main problem is, or the main thing that you're trying to achieve on your website, because this is obviously, you know, we're trying to engineer this around actually helping you. So if you send us your website, we'd like to know what it is you're actually trying to achieve. Are you trying to get sales? Are you trying to get people to opt in? Are you trying to get people to comment? Are you trying to get people to just download something? Are you trying to, you know, what are you actually trying to achieve with this website, so that we can actually help you, we can basically do a review and actually, you know, give you some action points that you can implement to make that a success.
Yeah. Okay. So please submit your website. Yeah, we'd really love to give you some feedback and apply our experience in marketing to help your business thrive.